You've really piqued our curiosity with this week's deep dive.
It's a big one.
It is. You want to know how AI is going to change the job market, which, let's be honest.
It's on everyone's minds these days.
Absolutely, it is. And you've given us a ton to dig into. Articles, expert opinions, even some manifestos, so...
It's going to be fascinating to unpack all of this. Let's dive in.
Yeah. The second you start looking into AI, it's like you hit this wall of predictions.
Right.
Some sound terrifying, like we're all about to be out of jobs. And then others make it sound like AI is going to be, creating jobs left and right, and we'll all be living in some utopia.
Yeah, and the truth is probably somewhere in between. I mean, you're right. That 2013 Oxford study, the one that got so much attention for predicting, what was it, nearly half of all U.S. jobs could be automated.
47%, I think?
Yeah, something like that. That really got the ball rolling on a lot of the anxiety we're seeing now. But you have to consider the context, right? When you look at more recent analyses like the Goldman Sachs research you provided,
Right.
They still predict a massive shift, don't get me wrong. Something like 300 million jobs globally.
Okay, so 300 million is still...
It's not the total workforce wipeout that some people were afraid of.
Yeah, it's a lot of people to have to, figure out what their next chapter is.
Right.
And some of the sources got really specific, too, which is almost scarier than those big abstract numbers.
Oh, absolutely. When you start thinking about the individual people and families impacted by this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Customer service roles facing AI-powered chatbots, long-haul trucking on the verge of self-driving fleets, even programmers sweating over AI that can write code. I mean, it makes you wonder,
Right.
Is any job safe?
Yeah, it's unsettling, for sure. But I think framing AI solely as a job-stealing force is an oversimplification. At the end of the day, it really is a tool.
Yeah.
And like any tool, it's all in how we use it.
Right, that makes sense. So more like AI as a force multiplier.
Yeah.
Right, that idea that it's not necessarily replacing humans, but making us better, faster, stronger, all that jazz.
Exactly. It's about augmenting our capabilities.
Right, augmenting, not replacing. Got it.
And there were some great examples of that in the sources you sent. Like, remember that Oxford University piece on AI and healthcare?
Yeah.
There was one specific example. It was about using AI to detect diabetic retinopathy, which I learned from the article is a leading cause of blindness.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah. And they were explaining how AI can analyze retinal images with incredible accuracy, often catching it at much earlier stages than human doctors can, which is amazing, right?
That's incredible.
But then it frees up the ophthalmologists to focus on treatment and, the patient care aspect of it.
Right, the stuff that requires, that human touch.
Exactly.
So it's almost like AI can handle the tedious, repetitive tasks, and then humans can focus on the higher level stuff, the creative problem solving, the stuff that requires empathy.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just healthcare. You highlighted that IJGIS article, the one about AI in finance and manufacturing. They made a really good point that, yes, AI is transforming these industries. It's optimizing processes and predicting trends.
Right.
But it's not going to eliminate the need for human expertise. It's going to create new roles, though, in things like AI development and management, oversight, that sort of thing.
So we might not even be able to imagine what those jobs of the future will look like.
Right. But it's going to require a deep understanding of both the technology and the human element,
Absolutely.
It's a fascinating time to be thinking about all of this.
So it's less about robots taking our jobs and more about how do we adapt to a workplace where AI is a collaborator?
I think that's a much more helpful way to think about it, yeah. And speaking of adapting, there was this one concept that really jumped out at me, virtual agglomeration.
Okay, I will admit, when I saw that in the materials, I was like, whoa, what is that? It sounds kind of intimidating.
It sounds very futuristic, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually a pretty straightforward concept. It's basically describing how AI, and specifically I think they were talking about through the internet and big data, how that has the potential to connect people, resources, opportunities in ways that we've never really been able to before.
So like breaking down geographical boundaries.
Exactly. It's like, imagine a platform where the best and brightest in any field can come together, collaborate on projects, share knowledge, launch businesses, whatever it is, regardless of where they are in the world.
Wow, I hadn't even considered that. So AI could actually create jobs by facilitating connections like that.
That's the idea. It's not just about automating existing industries. It's about creating entirely new sectors and opportunities that we can't even fully grasp yet.
That's pretty wild.
It is wild.
When you think about it, we really are on the precipice of something huge.
We are, and it all seems to be moving so fast, which is maybe the most important thing to remember here. What we consider cutting edge today could be obsolete tomorrow.
Oh, for sure. It's like that saying, the only constant is change, right?
Exactly. Which means that adaptability and continuous learning are no longer optional. They're absolutely essential for anyone navigating the future of work.
So we need to be prepared to learn, unlearn, and relearn throughout our entire careers.
Yeah. It's not just about mastering a specific skill set anymore.
Right.
It's about cultivating a mindset of adaptability and a willingness to embrace new technologies and new ways of working.
It's like, how do we become comfortable with being uncomfortable?
You got it. Because if there's one thing we know for sure, it's that the job market of the future is going to reward those who are agile, adaptable, and constantly evolving alongside AI.
Which brings us to the big question, right?
Right.
What skills are we going to need to thrive in this future with AI? Are we all going to have to become like coding wizards or data scientists?
You know, that's what everyone asks, but it's actually a common misconception. Yeah. While technical skills will definitely be important, especially in certain fields, I think the real game changer will be those uniquely human skills, the ones that AI just can't replicate.
Like what?
Things like critical thinking, creativity, complex problem solving, that ability to connect with other people on a deeper level, all the things that make us human.
Right, right.
Okay.
Because AI can process information, but it can't really think for itself, can it?
Exactly. And it made me think of that IJGIS article, the one we included in this week's materials.
Yeah.
It made a really interesting point about how, yes, AI can analyze massive amounts of data. It can identify patterns, but it's still humans who have to interpret those patterns.
Okay, yeah.
And then ask the right questions, come up with creative solutions to complex problems.
It's almost like AI can give us the what, but we still need humans to figure out the so what and the now what.
Exactly. 1,000 times, yes. It requires a different kind of skill set.
Right.
One that goes way beyond memorization or just technical proficiency.
So it's not just about what we know, but how we think.
Exactly. You've got it.
That actually reminds me of that USD article about the Masters in Applied AI program.
Oh, yeah. Interesting program.
It wasn't framed as the path forward for everyone, but it did highlight the fact that there's this growing need for people who can bridge the gap between AI and human needs, which takes more than just technical skills.
Right? It's that human element again.
Exactly. I don't know. It's like learning a new language, right? You can memorize all the vocabulary and the grammar rules, but to truly master a language, you need to understand the culture, the nuances, the art of communication.
The soul of it. Almost.
Yes, and that's where those human skills, empathy, communication, all of that, that's where those become so important.
I love that analogy because with AI, it's not just lines of code we're interacting with.
Right.
It's these systems that are going to impact every single aspect of our lives.
Totally.
We need people who understand the technology, yes, but who can also anticipate its impact, navigate all the ethical considerations.
Which is huge.
It is. We have to make sure it's being used in a way that benefits all of humanity, not just a select few.
And speaking of ethical considerations, one of the things that's been on my mind a lot lately is, the potential for AI to make existing inequalities even worse.
Oh, absolutely. That's a huge concern.
Especially for, women and minority groups who are already underrepresented in a lot of fields.
It's something that several of these sources address directly, which I thought was really important. I think it was the St. Thomas article, the one on ethics.
Yeah.
They really emphasize the need for greater diversity in AI development.
Oh, for sure.
Having those diverse voices at the table from the very beginning.
Because AI is only as good as the data it's trained on, right?
Exactly. If that data reflects our existing biases, then the AI is just going to perpetuate them on a larger scale.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to have diverse teams working on this, from the people coding the algorithms to the ethicists setting the guidelines for how it's used.
So it's not just about making AI that's technically sophisticated. It's about making AI that's ethical and equitable as well.
Yes. And that's where that concept of mindful AI comes in.
Oh, right. Designing and using AI in a way that prioritizes CUNY values and well-being.
Exactly. It's about asking the tough questions right from the start. What are the potential consequences? What will the long-term impact be on society? Is this actually aligned with our values and our goals?
So it sounds like we need a whole new framework for thinking about work in this age of AI.
We do. It's not just about retraining for a specific job. It's about cultivating this mindset of adaptability, ethical awareness, and being open to lifelong learning.
It's like embracing the unknown, almost.
Exactly. It's about understanding that the job market of the future may look radically different than anything we can imagine right now.
And that's okay.
It is. It's about being open to those possibilities and being willing to evolve alongside the technology.
It's almost like we have to become more comfortable with being uncomfortable.
You've got it. That's the key to all of this, I think. The future belongs to those who are willing to adapt, to learn, and to embrace the unknown.
So much of what we've been talking about feels really big picture, you know,
Yeah.
like this massive societal shift.
Right.
But what does it actually look like for me, for the average person, just trying to navigate their career?
Well, and that's what makes all of this so fascinating, isn't it? It's not just happening in some lab somewhere. It's filtering into our lives
Right.
in ways we probably don't even realize yet.
That's true.
But I think the sources you shared really point to a few key things that we can do.
Okay, so less doom scrolling and more like concrete action steps.
Exactly. I think the first one is education.
Okay.
And I don't mean everyone needs to go out and get a degree in AI, but just that basic literacy, you know? What is AI? How does it work? What are its limitations, as well as its potential?
Right. Like if you don't understand a tool at all, you're going to be more likely to be afraid of it or use it poorly.
Exactly.
Are there resources you'd recommend, places people can go to start learning? Aside from, you know, listening to awesome podcasts like this one, obviously.
Of course. But yeah, there's actually a ton of great stuff out there.
Okay.
Online courses, articles, documentaries that break down some of these really complex concepts in a way that makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
And I know that USD article that you sent, the one about the master's degree, they actually listed a bunch of really reputable online courses.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That would be a great starting point, I think.
Yeah. And those could even help people figure out, like, okay, do I want to make a career pivot? Are there ways I can leverage AI in my existing field?
Absolutely. And that's another big thing, right? That continuous learning, that willingness to evolve your skills over time. Because, like we were saying, the jobs of the future may not even exist yet.
Right.
So being open to that and being like, okay, I need to adapt. That's going to be huge.
It's like we need to become more comfortable with being uncomfortable, always learning, always evolving.
Yes. And it's not just about those technical skills either.
Oh, right.
All those things that we've been talking about, the critical thinking, the creativity, the empathy, the communication skills, all of that.
Right, that human stuff.
Yes. Those are the things that set us apart, that allow us to use this technology in a way that actually enhances our humanity.
Yeah, replaces it.
Exactly. And that brings us to another really important piece of all of this.
Okay.
It's this idea of collaboration, not competition.
I like that, especially since it feels like so much of the talk about AI is like this humans versus machines kind of thing.
It's a good story, right?
Yeah, very dramatic.
But I think it's a false dichotomy.
So instead of fearing AI, we should be looking for ways to partner with it.
Yes. To create something even greater than either one of us could on our own.
Which, I mean, that brings us back to like those big questions that we keep coming back to.
All right.
Are we going to use AI to create a more equitable world, or are we going to let it make those inequalities even worse? Are we going to lean into this potential for collaboration and abundance, or are we going to give in to that fear and that scarcity mindset?
Those are the questions we all have to be asking ourselves right now.
They're big ones.
They are, but they're important because it really highlights that this future with AI, it's not predetermined. It's up to us to decide what it's going to look like.
That's a powerful thought.
And that's why conversations like this are so important.
Absolutely.
Because it's not just about the technology itself.
Right.
It's about the choices that we make, the actions that we take.
So what do you all think? What excites you about the future of work with AI? What concerns you? What actions are you going to take to make sure that this technology benefits all of us?
Because this conversation is far from over.
Not even close. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us, everyone.